The hall was loud, full of voices and flashing lights. Buyers from different worlds sat in long rows, each one ready to spend huge amounts of credits. It was the Great Orion Auction, a place where strange and rare things were sold to the highest bidder. From ancient alien weapons to living creatures, here you could buy almost anything. Daniel Cross stood at the back, hands in his pockets. He had no real reason to be there. He was just a mechanic from Earth. His clothes were plain, and his credit account was almost empty. He came to watch, not to buy. It was a strange kind of fun for him. Watching rich aliens fight over shiny toys, lot after lot was sold. A crystal statue from the moons of Tyria, a box of stardust that glowed in the dark, a small robot that sang in 10 languages. Daniel watched without much interest until the auctioneer spoke again. "Lot number 57, the man said, his voice deep and serious from behind a heavy curtain. A spaceship rolled forward. It was old, covered in dust and scratches. The hull was dark silver. But time had dulled its shine. It looked like it had not flown in years. Some in the crowd laughed, others shook their heads. A ship that old was not worth much. But Daniel's eyes narrowed. He loved ships, even broken ones. He could almost feel the history in its design. It was not like modern Earth ships. It had smooth, curved lines, almost organic. The auctioneer cleared his throat. "This vessel," he said slowly, "comes with certain conditions." His tone made some buyers frown. No one asked what the conditions were. They just lost interest. The opening bid was low, so low that even Daniel, with his tiny credit balance, could afford it. He smirked, thinking it might be funny. To place a bid, just for the thrill, he raised his hand. 100 credits, he said, his voice casual. The crowd turned to look at him. Some smiled, some whispered. No one else raised a hand. The auctioneer's eyebrows rose, going, "Once," he said, "going twice." Sold. The hammer came down with a loud crack. Daniel blinked. It took him a second to realize what had just happened. He had just bought a spaceship. The auctioneer gave him a strange look, like he was not sure if Daniel was lucky or cursed. "Payment to be made immediately," the man said. Daniel walked to the counter, paid, and was handed a small metal keycard. "This is your ship now," the clerk told him quietly. "Good luck." There was something in her voice, something that made Daniel's stomach tighten. It was not the normal way people wished you luck. It sounded like a warning, but he brushed it off. He had just bought a ship for almost nothing. Maybe it was his lucky day after all. He walked into the docking bay where his new ship waited. The air was cold and the lights were dim. The ship stood silent. Its dark hull seemed to drink in the light. Daniel placed the keycard into the control panel by the ramp. With a slow hiss, the ramp lowered. A faint smell of old metal and something sweet drifted out. He stepped inside. The interior was quiet. Too quiet. Dust floated in the air. He could hear the soft hum of the ship's systems waking up after years of sleep. He walked through narrow halls. His boots made soft echoes. Control panels lit up as he passed. He reached the cockpit. The glass canopy above showed the bright lights of the docking station. Daniel ran his fingers over the controls. They felt smooth, almost warm. He smiled a little with some work. This ship might fly again. He sat in the pilot's chair. That was when he heard it. A sound, faint but clear. Breathing, slow, steady. Human-like, Daniel froze. The sound came from deeper inside the ship. He stood up and followed it. Down a short corridor, he found a closed door. The breathing was louder here. His heart started to pound. He pressed the door control. The panel slid open with a soft hiss. Inside was a small, dark room, and in the middle of it, a stasis pod. A soft blue light glowed from its base. Through the glass, Daniel saw a figure, tall, slender, with skin that shimmered faintly in the dim light. It was a woman, an alien woman. Her eyes were closed, but Daniel felt as if she might open them any second. The pod let out a faint sigh, as if it was breathing too. Daniel stepped back. His mind was racing. Why was there someone inside his new ship? Why hadn't anyone told him? And then, her eyes slowly opened. They glowed like silver fire, and she whispered, "You woke me." Daniel froze where he stood. The woman inside the stasis pod was not like anything he had ever seen. Her skin was smooth and silver, almost like liquid metal. Her hair floated around her head in soft waves, even though there was no wind. And her eyes. Those glowing silver eyes were locked on him. The pod hissed again, releasing a stream of cold vapor into the air. Daniel's breath turned white in a sudden chill. She stepped forward, slow and graceful. Her bare feet touched the metal floor without making a sound. Daniel took a step back without thinking. She tilted her head slightly, studying him. "You are human," she said, her voice soft but filled with an echo. It was like two voices speaking at once, one close, one far away. Daniel swallowed hard. "Yeah," he replied. "And you are?" She straightened, her silver eyes never leaving his face. "I am Lyra," she said simply, "the last daughter of the House of Valen." Daniel blinked. The name meant nothing to him. "Okay, Lyra," he said slowly. "I think there's been a mistake. I just bought this ship at an auction. No one told me it came with a passenger." Lyra's lips curved into the smallest hint of a smile. "I am not a passenger," she said. "I am part of this ship. It is my home, my prison, and my body." Daniel frowned. "That's not possible," he muttered. Lyra stepped closer, her gaze deep and steady. "Then how do you explain that you are now my captain?" "And my husband?" Daniel stared at her. For a moment, he thought she was joking, but her face was calm, her voice steady. "Look," he said, holding up his hands. "I think you've got the wrong idea. I didn't marry anyone. I just made a cheap bid on a broken ship." Lyra's smile faded. "You bid on me," she said. "In the traditions of my people, the one who claims my vessel claims me as well." Daniel shook his head. "This is insane," he muttered. He turned to leave the small room, but the door behind him slid shut on its own. The lights dimmed. The hum of the ship's systems grew louder. "Do you feel it?" Lyra asked quietly. "The bond," Daniel frowned. "What bond?" She stepped closer until she was only an arm's length away. "The ship responds to you now. Because you and I are linked." Daniel hesitated. He looked around the room, noticing for the first time how the walls seemed alive. Small pulses of light moved under the surface, like veins carrying energy. It didn't look like any ship he had ever worked on. It felt more like standing inside a living creature. Lyra placed her hand on the wall. A line of light ran from her fingers across the room to the doorway. The door slid open again. "Come," she said. "I will show you." Daniel followed her reluctantly. They walked through the corridors. Everywhere she touched, lights came alive. She led him to the cockpit. The pilot's chair seemed to grow taller and adjust as Daniel approached. Lyra stood beside him. "Sit," she said. He hesitated, but finally sat down. The moment he did, the controls shifted slightly. Molding to his hands, a shiver ran down his spine. "This ship knows you now," Lyra said. "It will listen to you, but only through me." Daniel leaned back. "So what exactly are you?" he asked. Lyra looked out through the canopy, her eyes distant. "My people were not like yours. We built our ships from living matter. They were part of us when I was born. I was bonded to this vessel. It is my life, my body, my weapon." She looked at him again. "You now hold all of that in your hands." Daniel let out a short, nervous laugh. "This is way too much for me," he said. "I'm just a mechanic. I can fix an engine. But this is something else. Lyra's expression softened. "Then perhaps it is fate," she said, "because I have been waiting a long time for someone to wake me." Daniel started to respond, but a sudden beeping sound filled the cockpit. A red light flashed on the main display. Lyra's face hardened. "They have found us," she said. Daniel frowned. "Who?" She turned toward him, her voice low and serious. "The ones who destroyed my people, they want what is inside this ship." Daniel's stomach tightened. "What is inside this ship?" he asked. Lyra's silver eyes glowed brighter. "The heart core," she said. "The last of its kind, and now they know you have it." The beeping grew louder. Daniel glanced at the display. 3 red blips were closing in fast. Ships, and not the friendly kind. Lyra stepped closer to him. "If you wish to live, Daniel Cross," she said, "you will have to trust me." Daniel looked from her glowing eyes to the approaching ships on the screen. He had no idea what he had gotten himself into. But something told him there was no turning back now. The red blips on the screen kept moving closer. Daniel's hands hovered over the controls, unsure what to do. Lyra stood beside him, calm but focused. "You've never flown a living ship before," she said. Daniel glanced at her. "I've never flown anything that's alive at all." She moved to the other chair, her fingers brushing over the console. The lights shifted, controls reshaping under her touch. The ship gave a low hum. "Like a creature waking up, this vessel is not just a machine," she said. "It feels, it reacts, it learns." Daniel shook his head. "That's not possible." Lyra's silver eyes locked onto him. "For you, maybe not. For my people, it was our way of life." Daniel tried to focus. "The chasing ships were only minutes away. Then you'd better teach me fast," he said. Lyra leaned forward. "Close your eyes," she ordered. Daniel hesitated. "Why?" "Because this ship does not follow buttons or levers. It follows thought. Your mind is the key, but it needs my link to open." Daniel reluctantly closed his eyes. At first, all he saw was darkness. Then, slowly, he began to feel the ship around him, not through his hands, but in his head. He could sense the curve of its hull, the vibration of its engines, the cold of the outer space beyond. It was like standing in 2 places at once, inside his own body and inside the ship's body. Daniel's eyes flew open. What the hell was that? Lyra's lips curved into a faint smile. "That is the bond," she said. "Right now, it is weak, but the more you use it, the stronger it will grow." Daniel rubbed the back of his neck. "That was weird," he muttered, but part of him couldn't deny it felt strangely powerful. Lyra's smile faded. "You are human," she said. "Your people build tools to obey commands. My people built companions to share life with. Our ships were family. We cared for them, and they cared for us." Daniel frowned. "And now your family is mine." "Yes," she said simply. "And because of that, so am I." Daniel shook his head. "This whole husband thing you keep talking about, it is not about romance," Lyra interrupted. "It is about responsibility. The captain is bound to protect the bonded, and the bonded will protect the captain until their last breath." Daniel leaned back. "That's a lot," he admitted. Lyra's gaze softened for a moment. "It is also the only reason you are still alive," she said. "Those ships out there, they will not stop. They will hunt us until they get the heart core." Daniel glanced at the display again. The blips were almost on top of them. "Then maybe we should run," he said. Lyra nodded once. "Yes, but not through normal space. We will have to use the drift." "The what now?" Before she could answer, the first blast hit. The ship shook, lights flickering. Daniel gripped the controls. "They're firing at us." Lyra's hands moved quickly over the console. "No more time," she said. "Hold on," Daniel felt a sudden pressure in his chest. The hum of the ship grew into a deep vibration. Then, with a shudder, the stars outside the cockpit began to stretch. Colors swirled, twisting into streams of light. It was like falling and flying at the same time. Daniel's stomach flipped. What is happening? We are in the drift, Lyra said, her voice calm. It is faster than light. But it takes strength. My strength, Daniel noticed her breathing was heavier now. You're tiring yourself out, he said. She nodded. The bond is still weak. So the ship leans on me. If you learn quickly, you can share the load. Daniel ran a hand through his hair. I didn't sign up for any of this, he muttered. No, Lyra said softly. But fate doesn't ask. For a moment, silence filled the cockpit. Daniel stared at the strange streams of light outside. It was beautiful and terrifying at once. Finally, he broke the silence. So, this hardcore thing, what exactly is it? Lyra's expression darkened. It is the heart of the ship. It is what gives it life. It is also a weapon. With it, one ship can destroy a fleet. Daniel swallowed hard. And those guys chasing us, want it? She finished. They killed my people for it. Now they know you have it. Daniel let out a long breath. Great. So I'm stuck with a living ship, an alien bride, and a giant target on my back. Lyra's lips twitched, almost a smile. You make it sound more dangerous than it is, she said. Daniel gave her a look. It's exactly as dangerous as it sounds. The ship shuddered again. Lyra glanced at the console. They are trying to follow us into the drift, she said. That is not possible for most ships, but these are not normal hunters. Daniel leaned forward. So, what do we do? Lyra turned to him. We hide where no one dares to go. The grave belt. Daniel raised an eyebrow. That name is not comforting. It is not meant to be, she replied. But it may be the only place we can rest, and while we hide, I will teach you how to truly fly this ship. Daniel exhaled slowly. Something told him this lesson would not be easy. The drift stream bled away. Stars snapped back into view, cold and sharp. Before them lay the grave belt, a stretch of dark space littered with broken ships, shattered stations, and the bones of ancient battles. Massive chunks of twisted metal floated like silent ghosts. Some pieces were bigger than cities, others were no more than shards spinning slowly in the dark. Daniel stared out at the sight. It looks like a graveyard, he muttered. Lyra's voice was low. It is. No one comes here unless they have no choice. The dead ships still carry echoes of the fight. Sometimes the echoes fight back. Daniel frowned. You're telling me this place is haunted? Lyra glanced at him. Not in the way you think. The debris fields are full of rogue AI. They protect what's left as if it still belongs to their masters. Daniel shook his head. Great. So now we've got ghost ships and killer robots. The ship drifted deeper into the belt, weaving between the wrecks. The silence pressed in. No come chatter. No engine noise from the dead hulks, just the faint hum of their own vessel. Daniel leaned forward in the pilot's chair. Any sign of those hunters? Lyra's eyes narrowed. They are here, she said softly. Daniel felt his stomach drop. How do you know? Lyra's voice was sharp now. The ship feels them. A warning chime echoed in the cockpit. 3 red markers flared on the display. They were closing fast. Daniel's hands tightened on the controls. All right, tell me how to lose them. Lyra's gaze locked on his. Do exactly as I say. No questions. Trust the bond. Daniel swallowed hard and nodded. Lyra's hand rested lightly on the console. Her eyes glowed brighter. Bank left. Now. Daniel turned the ship sharply. The living hull responded instantly, flowing through the motion like water. A blast of plasma tore past where they had just been. Daniel's heart pounded. They're firing already. Lyra didn't look at him. They will not stop. The hunters came into view through the canopy, sleek, black ships with jagged wings. Their hulls painted with crimson marks, they moved like predators, each motion precise. They're faster than us, Daniel said. Not in here, Lyra replied. She reached for his wrist. Her touch cool against his skin. Close your eyes again, Daniel groaned. This is not the time for do it. She snapped. He shut his eyes, and instantly the ship's senses poured into him again. The grave belt unfolded in his mind, every shard of metal, every drifting hulk, every hidden path. Lyra's voice was inside his head now. Turn 40 degrees, cut thrusters, let the wreck's shadow hide us. Daniel obeyed. The ship slid silently into the shadow of a massive battlecruiser husk. The hunters roared past, scanning the wrong sector. Daniel grinned. That, actually, worked. Lyra's tone was calm. It will work again if you keep listening. Before he could answer, one of the hunter ships looped around, sensors flaring. They've got us, Daniel shouted. Then we run, Lyra said. The ship leaped forward, twisting between drifting wreckage. The hunters followed, weaving just as smoothly. Plasma bolts lit up the darkness. Explosions scattering glowing debris. Daniel ducked instinctively. As a chunk of burning metal spun past the canopy, they're too good at this. Lyra's voice was steady. They are bonded to, but they are not us. She pressed her palm against the wall beside her seat. A deep vibration ran through the ship. Daniel felt it in his bones. What was that? Calling the belt, she said. Ahead, a cluster of dead ships began to move. Daniel's eyes widened. There, turning. The hulks slowly rotated, blocking the hunters' direct path. Rogue AI turrets lit up, firing at anything that moved. The hunters swerved to avoid the sudden storm of gunfire. One was clipped. Spinning out into the dark, Daniel laughed in disbelief. You just weaponized a graveyard. Lyra's lips curved slightly. Sometimes the dead can be allies. But the moment of relief was short. The remaining two hunters broke through, angling toward them with renewed speed. Lyra's voice was sharp. Prepare for full drift. Daniel's chest tightened. Won't that burn you out? She didn't answer. The hum of the ship rose to a roar. Daniel felt the bond flare inside his head, stronger than before. It was like part of him was being pulled forward with a ship. The stars stretched, light bent. The hunters followed too close. Lyra, they're still with us. Her eyes glowed like molten silver. Then we shake them where no hunter dares to go. Ahead, the drift tunnel shimmered, and in the distance, Daniel saw something impossible. A vortex of light and shadow, twisting in on itself like a whirlpool. In space, it pulsed with a strange, almost living rhythm. Daniel's voice cracked. What is that? Lyra's answer was a whisper. The ship dove toward it. The hunters hesitated for the first time. Daniel gritted his teeth. If they're scared of it, why are we going in? Because Lyra said, her voice calm but deadly. Fear is the best shield we have left. The maw swallowed them whole. Light bent and twisted. Pulling into a tunnel of swirling black and white, Daniel gripped the armrests, his knuckles white. The ship shook as if it was resisting the pull. Lyra sat completely still, her eyes closed. Her hands rested on the living walls. Silver light ran under her fingers. Pulsing with the ship's heartbeat, Daniel forced his voice steady. Are we safe? Lyra opened her eyes slowly. No one is safe inside the maw. But here, the hunters cannot follow. The maw rejects them. Daniel frowned. Rejects them? What does that even mean? Her gaze shifted toward the swirling light outside. This place is alive, Daniel. It senses what should not exist, and it consumes it. A chill ran down his spine. You're saying this? Tunnel eats ships. Yes, she said softly, and minds. If you stay too long, Daniel sat back. trying not to look at the walls of light pressing around them. Then maybe you should tell me why we're risking it. Lyra's voice was quiet but firm. Because you must understand what you are carrying before it destroys you. Daniel met her eyes. All right. Start talking. She leaned back in her seat. The silver glow in her eyes dimming slightly. My people, the Valen, built ships. Not as tools, but as living extensions of ourselves. We grew them from the heart core, a fragment of a star. Captured and bound to living matter, it was our greatest creation. And our greatest mistake. Daniel's brows furrowed. What kind of mistake? Lyra's gaze dropped to the floor. The core gave our ships life, but it also gave them hunger. The Valen believed the bond between ship and pilot would keep. That hunger controlled, but the more the core lived, the more it wanted. It craved energy. It craved. Souls? Daniel stared at her. You're telling me this ship is alive and hungry? Yes, she said. And the only thing keeping it from feeding freely is me. And now, you. Daniel's chest tightened. I didn't ask for this. No, she said quietly. But fate rarely asks permission outside the canopy. The swirling lights of the maw flashed brighter. Daniel noticed shapes moving within the glow, almost like shadows swimming in deep water. Lyra continued. The hunters are the Scythoborn, once Valen like me, but they abandoned our laws. They took their cores and fed them without restraint. It made their ships more powerful. But twisted, now they hunt the last pure core mine. Daniel's eyes narrowed. So I've got the one thing they can't get anywhere else. Yes, Lyra said. And that is why they will follow you to the edge of the galaxy. He let out a low breath. Great. Just great, for a moment. The ship went quiet, except for its low hum. Daniel leaned forward, his voice softer. You said you're the last of your kind. What happened to the others? Lyra's eyes darkened. They were betrayed. The Scythoborn came under the flag of peace. But their bonded ships had already been fed beyond control. They devoured our fleets, and when my family's ship fell, I sealed myself in stasis to protect the core until someone worthy claimed it. Daniel tilted his head. Worthy? You mean me? Her lips curved into the faintest smile. You bought me. That makes you my captain. The bond makes you my equal. Daniel shook his head. I'm no hero, Lyra. I fix engines. I don't fight space wars. Her gaze locked. On his, you are already fighting, and you are still alive. That is more than most can say. A sudden shudder ran through the ship. Daniel glanced at the console. What was that? Lyra's eyes narrowed. The maw is testing us. It does not like to hold anything for long. We must leave soon, but before we go, you must see something. She stood and gestured for him to follow. They walked deeper into the ship, through corridors that seemed to shift slightly as they moved. Finally, they entered a chamber Daniel had never seen before. The walls pulsed with a golden light. In the center stood a crystalline sphere, floating above a pool of liquid silver. It glowed faintly, each pulse in sync with the heartbeat-like hum of the ship. Daniel's eyes widened. That's it, isn't it? The heart core. Lyra stepped closer. Yes, it is the heart of this vessel. And mine? If it dies, I die. If it is taken, the ship will turn on you. Daniel moved closer, feeling the heat radiating from the core. It was strangely beautiful, almost hypnotic. He felt his thoughts drifting. Lyra's hand snapped out, gripping his wrist. Do not stare too long, she warned. It will speak to you, and if you listen, it will own you. Daniel pulled his gaze away, breathing harder. This thing is dangerous. Yes, she said, but with it, you can survive the Scythoborn. You just have to be stronger than its hunger. Another shudder rippled through the ship. Stronger this time, Lyra turned sharply toward the door. The maw is opening a path. We must take it before it closes. And before something else comes through, Daniel followed her back to the cockpit. The swirling tunnel outside was changing. Pulling into a single, narrow corridor of light, Lyra slid into her seat, her eyes glowing bright again. "Hold the bond, Daniel. We cannot afford to be separated. Not now." As the ship surged forward toward the exit, Daniel had the sinking feeling that stepping out of the maw would not bring safety. It would only bring them back into the hunter's sights. The ship shot out of the maw like an arrow from a bow. Stars exploded back into view, cold and distant, for a brief moment. Daniel thought they had escaped. Then the warning alarm screamed. 2 hunter ships were already there, waiting. Black and crimson shapes against the glittering void. Their weapons glowed with deadly light. Daniel's grip on the controls tightened. "They were waiting for us," he said through clenched teeth. Lyra's eyes narrowed, her voice calm, but edged with steel. "They knew we would take the maw's exit. They've studied my ways before." The hunters fired. Bolts of plasma streaked past. One grazing the hull, the living metal rippled under the impact, like skin shivering from pain. Daniel felt it too, a dull ache in the back of his skull. He winced. That hurt." Lyra turned to him sharply. "The bond is growing. You feel what the ship feels." Daniel swallowed hard. "Then we need to end this fast." Lyra's gaze locked on his. "There is a way. But once we do it, there will be no—" Turning back, Daniel's heart pounded. "What way?" Her voice was low, almost a whisper. "A full bond?" He hesitated. "What does that even mean?" "It means we join completely. Mind to mind, soul to soul. You will see through my eyes and I through yours. The ship will answer to both of us as one. But you will also feel everything I feel." Daniel looked back at the approaching hunters. The distance was closing fast. "Sounds dangerous," he said. Lyra's silver eyes didn't waver. "It is, if you are not strong enough. The core will consume you, but without it, we will not survive." Another blast hit the hull, the ache. In Daniel's skull flaring sharper, he gritted his teeth. "All right, tell me what to do." Lyra reached across the console, placing her palm against his chest. "Close your eyes. And do not fight me." Daniel obeyed. Darkness filled his mind. For a heartbeat, then it burst into light. A flood of sensations crashed into him. The hum of the engines, the cold of the void, the pulse of the core beating like a second heart. And deeper still, he felt Lyra. Her presence was warm, steady, but edged with sadness and fire. Her thoughts brushed his, curious and sharp. "You are here," her voice echoed in his head. "Now hold on." The bond locked into place with a jolt. Daniel gasped. It was like waking up in a body 100 times bigger than his own. He could feel the curve of the hull, the strength in the engines, the tension in every joint, and alongside him, Lyra was there, guiding him. Not with words, but with instinct. The hunters fired again. Daniel didn't need to see. He felt the shot coming. He banked the ship sharply, plasma streaking harmlessly. Past adrenaline surged through both of them at once. Lyra's presence flared bright. "Good. Now we fight." They moved as one. Weaving through debris fields, the hunters in hot pursuit. Daniel's hands danced over the controls. But half the moves happened before he even touched them. The ship was reading his intent directly. Weapons came online, glowing with the core's power. Daniel felt its hunger in the back of his mind, like a beast straining against its leash. It wanted to fire. It wanted to destroy. "Let it," Lyra whispered in his thoughts. Daniel released the restraint. The ship roared. A beam of golden light lancing from the bow. It struck the nearest hunter, tearing through its shields like paper. The ship exploded in a blossom of fire and shattered metal. The core purred in satisfaction. Daniel shivered. That felt Too good. Lyra's voice was gentle but firm. Do not let it take you. We control the core. Not the other way around. The last hunter swerved, circling for another attack. Daniel's instincts sharpened with the bond. He felt the rhythm of its maneuvers, the slight hesitation before each strike. He and Lyra dove toward an asteroid cluster, the hunter following close. At the last second, they split around a spinning chunk of rock. The hunter turned too late, and Daniel unleashed another golden beam. The ship exploded in silence, fragments. Scattering into the void, silence settled in the cockpit. Daniel's breathing was ragged. Lyra's hand still rested on his chest, the glow in her eyes slowly fading. The bond pulsed between them like a living thread. "We are one now," she said, in his mind. "You will never be alone in this ship again." Daniel opened his eyes, meeting her gaze. There was no barrier between them now. He could feel her relief, her exhaustion, her quiet pride, and beneath it all the faint ache of grief she carried everywhere. He didn't speak, he didn't need to. The bond carried the thought clearly. We'll survive this, together. Lyra's lips curved into the smallest smile. "Yes," she said aloud. "And now, Captain, we choose where to go next, outside." The void was quiet again, but Daniel knew it wouldn't last. Somewhere out there, the Scythoborn still hunted. And now they would know the core had awakened. The wreckage of the last hunter drifted slowly into the black. Its glowing fragments faded until they were nothing more than cold dust in the void. Inside the cockpit, silence stretched. Only the steady hum of the core broke it. Daniel sat back in the captain's chair, breathing hard. He could still feel the echo of the battle through the bond, the rush of speed, the flash of power, the strange satisfaction of victory. It lingered like heat after a fire. Lyra sat across from him, her silver eyes softer now. She no longer looked like a stranger through the bond. Daniel could feel her presence as clearly as his own heartbeat. Calm, steady, but carrying the weight of memories that were not his. She spoke without looking at him. "They will come again." Daniel nodded slowly. "I know." Her gaze turned toward the stars. "They will bring more ships. They will not stop until the core is theirs." Daniel leaned forward, resting his hands on the console. "Then we don't wait for them. We move first." Lyra's eyes shifted back to him. "You mean to hunt them? Maybe not all of them, but I'm done running with no plan. We find a way to fight back." For a long moment, Lyra was silent through the bond. Daniel felt her weighing the idea. She was calculating, thinking of risks, and beneath it all, there was something else, hope, faint but growing. Finally, she spoke. "Then we must go to the lost gates." Daniel frowned. "What's that?" Her voice dropped lower. "They are the remains of the first Valent star paths. It's hidden places where our people stored knowledge, weapons, and allies. If the Scythoborn have not destroyed them, they may hold what we need." Daniel raised an eyebrow. "Sounds like a treasure hunt in deep space." "Not a treasure hunt," she said. "A war map." She leaned closer, and the first step to ending this chase. Daniel looked out at the endless stars. Through the bond, he could sense the ship waiting, listening to their decision. It felt almost eager. The core pulsed faintly, like a giant heart responding to its captain's resolve. Finally, Daniel nodded. "All right, the lost gates it is." Lyra stood and began entering new coordinates into the ship's system. The living console shifted under her touch, forming new pathways of light. Daniel felt the course being set, not just in the controls, but in his mind. The bond whispered of distant places, cold stars, dead worlds, and ancient ruins. It was like the ship itself remembered the way before they jumped. Daniel glanced at her. "So, where exactly are these gates?" She met his gaze in the black reach beyond the rim of mapped space. "No Scythoborn has ever gone there and returned." Daniel smirked faintly, comforting. "It is not meant to be." she said, but if we survive it, we will be ready. For whatever comes next, the ship's hum deepened. Daniel felt the core gathering its strength. The bond between him and Lyra flared warm. For a moment, they were both quiet, and then Daniel spoke softly. You know, before all this, I didn't even want to be here. I just came to watch an auction. Lyra's lips curved slightly, and now, Daniel met her eyes. Now, I think I'm exactly where I'm supposed to be. She didn't answer with words, through the bond. Daniel felt her quiet agreement and something else trust. The ship shifted under them, the stars stretching into long threads of light as they entered the drift. The grave belt, the maw, and the wreckage of battle faded behind them. Ahead lay the black reach, and whatever waited beyond it, as the ship slid into the current of faster-than-light travel. Daniel closed his eyes for a moment. He could feel everything, the vibration of the hull, the faint hum of the core, the steady presence of Lyra beside him. They were no longer two strangers tied together by accident. They were partners, captains of the same living vessel, bound not just by a strange alien law, but by survival. Lyra spoke quietly, her voice almost a whisper. Daniel Cross, when you placed that bid, you won more than a ship. You won me. And with me, you won a war you did not choose, but together. We might win it still. Daniel opened his eyes, the stars sliding past in streaks of silver and gold. Then, let's make sure we do, he said. No fear in his voice now, only determination. The core pulsed brighter, as if it understood. The living ship leaped forward into the dark, carrying them toward the lost gates, toward battles yet to come, and toward a future neither of them could yet see. Far behind them, in the cold shadow of forgotten space, a faint signal pulsed. The Scythoborn had already picked up their trail. The hunt was far from over.